Today's video is brought to you by seedsnow.com.
No rules, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, We are American Freedom Radio.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You now entering the Daily Wave, hosted by Mr. Christopher Green himself. On me, I'm just a fellow truth speaker. I go by the name of Doctrine. Welcome to the Daily Wave, starring Christopher Green, alternative media king, preaching truth on the screen. Sometimes he gives it to you calm, sometimes he's causing a scene. But one thing, you're not getting this on the mainstream. Economy, politics, and societal woes, he's got it locked. Just keep your eyes locked in on the show. If you want the spirit side, you too.
Everybody, I am Christopher Green. This is Green Wave Radio Live, March 26, 2013. I have our producers bringing on David Laurie Vanderbeek, the Constitutionalist Party's choice for Governor of Nevada 2014. David, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you pretty good. Well, please introduce yourself. You know, I've gotten a lot of emails and text messages and people sending me information like, hey, you got to bring this guy David on the show. He seems to have a lot of similar core values. He's doing a great job out of the state of Nevada. So please introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, like you said, my name is David Laurie Vanderbeek. I'm the next governor of Nevada. I am the candidate from what's called the Independent American Party, which is the Constitution Party for the state of Nevada. It's the affiliate with the National Party. Let's see here. I'm married to 5 children. I'm a veteran, 6th-generation Nevadan, so we've been here a long time since it was a territory.
Okay.
And, just observing our country. Yeah, I would agree. I resonate. You know, when I watch your material, it's kind of like hearing the echo of my own soul. And so, yeah, I think we're on the same page for sure.
Yeah, well, I was catching a few of your videos earlier before the broadcast. You've had a lot of successful YouTube, pretty much shout-outs. In fact, I encourage our audience, please check David out. His username on YouTube is David Laurie. He's got about 10,000 subscribers, so you're definitely making a big push. People seem to be recognizing what you're trying to accomplish in your state and for the benefit of the country. So tell me, how did you get involved in Liberty? I mean, what affected you to bring you to the point that said, look, I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to take matters into my own hands?
Well, it's a process, and I'm sure you've probably told the story, and I haven't heard your story, but we all have a process of awakening. It is a kind of being reborn over a period of years. I can only speak from my experience, but I agree that there are stages of awakening that we go through. We're initially in denial because we don't know what's going on, and then we're angry, and then we're manic and trying to, talk to people about it, and then we're depressed because we feel like nobody listens, and then we accept the situation and we find our own rhythm in the movement. So I guess mine would have started probably back. I would say around 2000, just had a lot of questions. Then there was 9/11. I was in the military, had a lot of questions about patriotism, didn't really see the desire of others to really serve. It didn't appear when I was in the military that people really believed in patriotism. So that caused me to have a lot of questions about what it is that is our country. And then we had 9/11, which, internally, I had a different experience of 9/11 than others around me. Most people were horrified and terrified at the time, or at least the ones that were more observable. My internal instinct to observing 9/11, because I had served in the military, because actually there's one other thing. I was a poli-sci major, and while I was a poli-sci major, political science, my professor said that intelligence gathering is amoral. In other words, there's no right or wrong when you're doing intelligence. And so that caused me to have like kind of a philosophical crisis kind of thing. And so I went into the library, started studying the history of the CIA, And after that, I changed my major to philosophy because I wanted to go deeper into political philosophy and religion and morality, ethics, and really learn what humans were all about and why we were doing all this. So by the time 9/11 occurred, my instinct was that there was something very natural about it. And that might be sound like a strange way of putting it, but there was something because I was well aware of what we'd been doing in other countries, and you can't go have kill squads going around the world and not have consequences for that. And I don't think the vast majority of American people have taken the time to look at what their countries, that what's been done in our name around the world, to understand why people really hate America.
Yeah, so it seemed really convenient timing. Is that kind of the impression that you had when 9/11 struck? That like, hey, this looks almost like too perfect of a storm.
Well, I wasn't sophisticated enough at that point. All I had was the basic instinct that this was a natural consequence of our country's behavior. That came, what you're talking about came later on. So in 2003 we had the war, and I was anti-war. And then around 2005, I'm related to one of the best hackers in our country, actually, and he got the family together at Christmas in 2005, and he had everybody watch two films, Terror Storm and Endgame.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So even though he works for the government, so he's in government and he does cybersecurity for the government, but he's one of those people that that are there in the government that know everything, that they're wide awake, and the people around them are awake. So, take heart. But I watched that, and then from there I went on to, learn about 9/11, false flag terrorism. That was the concept that burned into my soul. Was probably eugenics was the first time I'd really learned anything about eugenics, and then false flag terrorism, in particular the story of the USS Liberty, was really shocking to me. So from that point forward, it was about me as a family man. Changing my life to accord with actual truth. And so that affected how I faced school, how I faced being a professional, how I invested. And then in 2010, my 6-year-old son decided to prank call 9/11. He was like 6 years old, so he's doing this 9/11. I guess they taught him about it at school or something. And so he thought he'd call 9/11 a couple times, 911. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And a policeman came to our home, and he didn't identify why he was there. He knew full well that there was a child that was prank calling. He knew that, and he didn't identify that. We didn't know it. But our 6-year-old son had figured out how to take a spare phone and go hook it up into a phone jack, and that's what had happened. But I just was telling the police officer, "Why are you here? Do you have any, do you have a warrant? And he says, "I don't need a warrant." He shoved me into my own home. And I said, "You don't need to assault me. And what is your name?" And we had a conversation. But from that moment on, when that experience just said to me, well, if my government thinks that they can come into my home and act that way, then I'm going to go to war against the government. And so I ran I found my local party, which was the Constitution Party. I'd given up on the Republican Party, even though that's how I grew up. Grew up Christian conservative in Idaho. My wife did as well. And until high school, when I came back to Nevada, where my mom's family's from. And then, so I was here. It was 2010. I got involved in the party. I just talked to them. They asked me to run for state assembly. I said, yes, I'll do whatever. I want to be on this team. I fell in love. I felt at home in the Constitution Party. These were the people. And it was like joining the 1984 Chicago Bulls. A team with a horrible record, right? They got no money, they got no wins, and but that's the way I thought of it from the beginning. I said, these are the right people, and I'm going to be with them for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty special. I mean, hey, we might not have all the money, but we've got a lot of spirit and a lot of passion. And, I've just met personally so many fantastic people within the liberty freedom movement itself. It's pretty darn amazing. And it's pretty special what I see happening all across the country. So you had originally ran for Senate in 2012 in Nevada. Was that your first attempt at politics or entrance into politics?
2010. So 2010 was state assembly. And then once you gain, this is what patriots need to understand. You get involved in the party to get ballot access, but also to establish your name to get credibility within the party. And then the party will ask you and trust you with higher offices and running for them. So in 2012, they asked me to run for U.S. Senate. And so I did that knowing that it was more of like carrying the torch. It wasn't about winning. I knew we figured it would be a miracle if I got 6%. I got 5%, which was 50,000 votes, which was enough to ensure that Shelley Berkeley lost. But I only spent $650, and I didn't have a campaign manager. I didn't have a website. A lot of people didn't know me, and so getting that amount of votes for that money was 1.3 cents a vote, in contrast to my opponents, which spent about $20 million together, which was about $20 per vote. So this go around, decided to take that momentum from 2012 in just last November and figure out what was going on in 2014. Knew ahead of time that the governor's seat was going to be up. So just took all that, and it really hit a springboard because it was in December when Sandy Hook occurred, and I decided to ask questions about it. So I have a speech up on the internet that went kind of viral. It just started this kind of snowball effect. It's called "Did Obama Order Sandy Hook to Get Your Guns?"
Okay, so elaborate on that for our viewers that maybe haven't seen the video. What's your take on Sandy Hook? And there's been so many of these types of events. Just again, it seems like convenient timing, kind of like 9/11. Whether or not this is Aurora, Colorado, or it's Sandy Hook. What are your instincts?
Well, it's similar to 9/11 because the thing about think of this. Just make this point of comparison. The school had a new security system. Now in 9/11, we are told that an airliner hit the Pentagon, but of course they confiscated all the film footage because that never happened. If it did happen, why not just release the footage? Same thing in the case of Sandy Hook. We don't have an ounce of actual evidence or video footage or a single eyewitness that Adam Lanza went into the school and shot anybody. So why don't they just release the video footage from inside the school? I don't know. Have you or anyone of come forward with some video footage from inside the school with their new security system?
Not that I'm aware of, no. So, a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, what we know at the very least, whether or not it was a orchestrated, CIA-type PSYOP event or not, to a certain extent, I mean, it of course matters. I mean, we want to know the truth. Obviously, we're all truth seekers here. But what we know for certain, without a shadow of a doubt, is the event was politically charged, and there's been a political agenda behind it. And the Obama, administration, our politicians in Washington are leveraging, these events so that they can confiscate guns here in the United States. And honestly, President Barack Obama is using children as a human shield.
Okay, let me comment on that. Yeah. Let me dovetail on that because, yes, it was politicized from the very beginning, and it is about him standing on the graves of children, but we're talking about a human being who kills children every day, whether it's his drone attacks in Pakistan, whether it's all the children and families that are killed in the Middle East, where he's arming Al-Qaeda, and we know that he funds the Free Syrian Army. We know this is a gentleman that is not a gentleman because he's the one who's giving the weapons or facilitating the continued program of Fast and Furious, or did, to the cartels. And there's mass graves on the border of Mexican families. Then we've also got all the shootings of school kids, black kids in Chicago. And I don't see him crying for any of those children. The double standard is pretty alarming with Obama. I consider him pretty narcissistic. I consider him psychopathic. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any respect for him. I don't think of him in terms of a president because, he hasn't. We're also talking about a person who still hasn't established his eligibility to serve as president. He doesn't need to be impeached. He can be removed from office. So as a governor, I wouldn't feel inclined to follow anything that he has to say.
Yeah, and so, and these are all, fantastic. I mean, how many children die in car accidents every year? And I don't know the number, but I guarantee it's a lot more than, children dying by the barrel of a 1 in a million psychopath that happens to be drugged out on antidepressants. I mean, there's so many other things that President Barack Obama could be going to war with if he really cared about the children, if it was about saving, lives of children here in America that aren't even touched on. Of course, there's been a lot of talk about, the violence in movies and video games. I don't think that those are the causes, but what it shows me is it provides me the evidence that this is a politically motivated event, always has been. It's being politicized. The gun grab was in motion from the very day this guy took office. And it's not just President Barack Obama making the push. It's the special interest groups, the corporatists, the people that have put him in a position of power, in my opinion, to push for these types of policies. And, it's scary. It's terrifying for a lot of people. We see the DHS. They bought over 2 billion rounds of ammunition over the past few months. There was another report out today, a new purchase of over 360,000 hollow point rounds. So here we have the federal government arming up in record numbers, buying the types of weapons, ammunitions, and magazines that they say we can't have, but are literally taking for themselves. And I want to dig in. We're approaching our first commercial break here in a minute or two. But why don't you touch a little bit about that? I mean, how concerned are you about the gun grab? And, how close do you perceive the United States and the good people of America being, to the point where we could literally have people showing up at our doors, at our front doorstep, which I've already seen reports out of this happening. Anything happening locally in Nevada?
No, not that I'm aware of. I think this is mission creep. What we have is an arms race. The government appears to be wanting to corner the market in munitions. They know they can't get the guns, but they can take the bullets, or they can buy up the bullets. They can buy out the market so that it makes it harder for people to arm themselves as they suppress the economy. What is tyranny purported to look like? We have a culture of people who have bent over and bowed down for decades, and we're not going to fix that overnight. But I know people want to be free. I know that the Second Amendment issue is what is helping to wake up America. I guess I think the economic warfare is there's multiple attacks that I think that globalist. If we look at globalism, I believe that there are globalist forces at work.
David, let me go ahead and just briefly interrupt you there. We got to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back. I'm with David Laurie Vanderbeek, the Constitutionalist Party's choice for Governor of Nevada 2014. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green, founder and creator of the Alternative Media Television Network. Please check out our new sponsor, SeedsNow.com. Whether you're concerned about the economy, food shortages, rising food prices, or just looking to live an organic, self-sustainable lifestyle, investing in your own seed bank is the smartest investment you can make. At SeedsNow.com, we've put together the most comprehensive collection of high-quality, non-hybrid, and non-genetically modified seeds. The Mega Seed Bank, which I personally recommend, is stocked with 55 popular open-pollinated varieties and over 58,000 plus high-quality seeds. All fresh, all natural, all non-hybrid. Remember, the government won't save you. Only you can save yourself. Check them out today at SeedsNow.com. Enter promo code GREEN with an E10 for a 10% discount. Again, that's SeedsNow.com, promo code GREEN with an E10. Everybody, we are back. I'm Christopher Green, AMTV, hard-hitting and in your face. We're having a fantastic show today. I've got David Laurie Vanderbeek out of Nevada, running for governor in 2014. So, David, I want to dig into some of the politics. What are you going to do, and how do you think that you can change things for the better when you win in 2014?
Well, there's lots of things that can be done. I mean, the top priority is the preservation of the Second Amendment. it's, you could say freedom comes out of a barrel of a gun. It's just like you could say power. I think Mao said it was power that came out of a barrel of a gun. Mm-hmm. You could say freedom does. I think the Second Amendment should be the first, because if we don't have a Second Amendment, we don't have a First Amendment. So I think that citizens ought to be able to possess, own, and use firearms, any firearms that the government uses within their own borders. I don't have a problem with that. And I think that kind of security breeds protection. I think counties ought to be able to decide for themselves how they're going to handle security in their schools. The school boards, the superintendents, the PTA, the teachers have a right to say, the principals have a right not to be disarmed. So schools can handle that kind of security, and those are kind of Second Amendment related issues. We need to encourage, and that can promote the effect of locally and at the county level, the state level, we can nullify legislation. I think the future of politics is nullification at the city, town, and county level, not even the state level. I think it's going to go even down further. Mm-hmm. So we'll see communities have more autonomy because of the power of the internet, and the transfer of information is so immediate. We can nullify gun regulation that we just don't agree with, and I think that will be the future, and it won't just be in gun control, but it'll be in quite a variety of different places.
Yeah. Why do you think there's such a big push around the gun issue politically at the moment? Why is it top of mind? Why is there this push? I was watching a video which I thought was really tacky, put out by comedian Jim Carrey. I don't know if you saw that yesterday.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
It's what everybody's talking about. And like you said, that's what's top of mind. It's what's resonating with the American public. Why do you think the government wants this regulation and is making such a big push for it?
Well, they would use the media, because the media is part of this. We've got this thing that you can call it globalism, you can call it the New World Order, but they want to remove your sovereignty. If you can't fight back as a human being, then you're kind of cattle. My grandparents immigrated to the United States after World War II, and they were Dutch, as indicated by my name. The Dutch didn't have an army when the Nazi German army came and occupied Holland. They didn't have firearms. They used medieval weapons, some of them, to fight, and they were slaughtered. My grandparents lived under the quote-unquote Dutch underground. They lived on things like orange pills and tulip bulbs, and my grandmother weighed 95 pounds at the end of the war when she was pregnant with my uncle. So living like that is a direct consequence of not being able to defend yourself. And, when you remove somebody's ability to defend themselves, then you have power over that person. I think that we have control freaks in our government who would like nothing more than to control us, and we have to be disarmed. And the other thing is we know that they've stolen everything, and so we're going to have an economic collapse of sorts. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like or when it's going to unfold, but we're right on track to have a major downturn, because we're living in a bubble, right? We've got all this money that's been created, we've got all this debt that's been created, and we've got the lack of truth in our markets. So we can't, they call it price discovery, or we don't have a true market. We don't have a true free market. So that's got to swing back and into the realm of reality. And so there will probably be some food problems and maybe some food riots. And I imagine that when there's rioting, that the government would not like there to be armed civilians that are able to actually resist or do anything about it. I mean, they just want to control everything, it seems like.
Yeah, and I like the term because it pretty much says, these people are control freaks. I mean, that's a really a great descriptive term to give them. And in the gun issue, to me, in the Second Amendment, it really is the last line in the sand, because it's the physical way that we can defend ourselves.
Let me talk about. You did a video about surveillance and the Google Eyes thing, the
Sure.
Google glasses. The technology of today and the ability of the farming technology and the advancements have made humans redundant in a lot of ways. In other words, we shouldn't have to work so much, And what that's created is it's created a lot of people who, the system has the ability to provide for people without them having to work a whole lot.
Sure, and people ask the question, why don't we have a more efficient economy, a more efficient, why aren't people better taken care of? And I think the point is because they're not supposed to be. This is about keeping people as slaves. I mean, you've got a power structure at the very top. We're in bondage, just like peasants were in bondage, thousands of years ago when kings and queens were running the show. It's no different today. I mean, I was talking in the first hour, what are our options for president 2016? It's either a continuation of the Clintons, Hillary Clinton, who I think will win if the country survives that long, because I think we very much have a one-party system in America today, unfortunately. Or it's what, Jeb Bush, the third Bush, is allegedly come on, this is ludicrous, and it's pretty incredible. We've been stolen from, and I've always drawn a lot of this from a financial perspective because that was my background for 10 years. When I saw September 11th hit, I looked at it and I was obviously amazed, thought it was convenient timing, et cetera. But I also thought, wow, the financial markets are going to collapse as a result of that. And of that event, what happens? They prop things up. They lower interest rates down to zero. They create one of the largest financial bubbles in the history of man. And we have a systemic event in 2008. Now we're in the same environment times a million. Ben Bernanke's printing money, devaluing the dollar. We're having these, Cyprus events overseas in Europe. And, people are starting to wake up to this. They understand now that they got the money, now they're coming after the guns. So it's our physical line of self-defense. And, I think it's waking a lot more people up, and that's a big positive.
Well, they have, there's a lot of wealth in this world. There are a lot of resources, and there's enough for people to do well. But there's also a group of people in the elite that don't mind killing people, and I think that ultimately their goal is to control populations and through the suffering that they create. I think the problems that we're facing today are not magical. I don't think that they're mysterious. I think they're all human-made problems. And so while we could preserve life and grow life, we have this culture of, for example, aborting life. And it doesn't surprise me when people live in a surreal world. If men just grow up to play video games, that's a good reason why women wouldn't want to have your children, why they wouldn't want to clone you. You could have, your clones are your children. Those are these new genetic copies of yourself that women will make for you if you are a real man and you actually go and get the land and you create something and you build something, then you're kind of attractive to them. But if all you do is kind of sit back, then the elite look at you as a useless eater. And so if you get into that twisted mind frame, you can understand the ethos of the elite of this world. They see all the technology, they see all the wealth, and they don't necessarily want to share it, but they definitely don't want to spend it on people that they feel are sitting around doing nothing. Now, I don't believe in killing people. I understand their logic there, but I believe in nurturing people and helping them to grow and helping them to be motivated and wanting to do something with their lives other than watch TV, watch porn on the internet, and play video games. I think we can be so much more as humans, but I don't have, there's this kind of theory, the way I talked about it in university was the babies, and that's elitist mentality where, okay, we send these babies across the minefield, whoever survives was meant to survive, whoever dies, they die. That survival of the fittest, it's a twisted, distorted way of thinking, and I think that will prevail. It does prevail in some places of the earth, and I don't want to see that in Nevada. We can't fix the entirety of the United States. I think you look at Detroit, but I can do a lot for Nevada. We can create markets here. Every state has its own constitution, regardless of what happens to the federal government. Your state can have its own state bank. Your state can phase out taxation. One of the things that I talk about are the comprehensive annual financial reports. Your state takes in investment income and enterprise income. State governments There's state governments, there's county governments, there's local governments. There's several thousand types of governments that exist in each state. They all have resources. They have investment pools, and these funds that they get more income from those investments in their enterprises than they do from taxation. And those funds could be allocated to tax towards the budget as opposed to pretending that they need to tax everybody. So you can do that at the state level, but I don't see those. I don't put a lot of faith in the federal government because every chance they get to do something right, they fail.
Well, yeah, I mean, look who's running the I mean, these are failures. I mean, look, you hire a guy to, act as CEO of your company, and the guy drives, your business into bankruptcy. What do? Well, you invite him to your office and you fire him and say you've done a bad job and see you later. And you hire somebody else that can take care of business. But the problem is, these people, because they're so powerful, we never clean house. These people are still running the program today. The same people that have, raped and pillaged America, in my opinion. And, we touched on this a little bit with the breakthrough in technology. It's changed literally our ability to govern ourselves. So, it's changing the way that we operate within the real world. And you mentioned, this is very much a control grid. And we talked a lot about this in our little documentary, The Surveillance State. I mean, it's gotten to the point where why does the great majority of America even need physical bodies anymore? You could just literally be a drone or this brain tapped into a monopoly, which is exactly pretty much what the system is today. You've got Google, which in my opinion, there's a lot of great things about the company. It's open doors, information, etc. Obviously, they own YouTube, all these great things, but it is a monopoly. I mean, let's face facts. There is a reason why the federal government, the president, is constantly meeting with the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and, the heads of Google. It's because these are the power players. They've got more information than, they've ever had in the history of the world. They data mine everything. And now that we're inviting this technology in a very personal sense with the advent of Google Glass, which in my opinion, it's different. There's a difference between a cell phone and actually wearing something constantly on your face that is live streaming your experience, you're recording your family. It's insane, this control grid that's been built around humanity, which is taking our humanity away from ourselves. You made an awesome point, which I thought was really cool, talking about the fact, from even a female perspective or a family perspective, how, the guy that's doing things, physical things, building things, taking care of business it tends to be a lot more attractive, to other partners. And isn't that more fun? I mean, honestly, don't we want to build real relationships with our family and friends? Look somebody in the eye, shake their hands, build stuff, accomplish things. And, we can't lose that sense to our humanity. And we have to come back to a very organic and a very just real level of what it means to be human and what it means to do good in the world. I mean, I've got a sneaking suspicion that you want a better life for your children. You mentioned you have, 4 or 5 kids, David?
5 children, yep.
So you've got 5 children, and I hear that all the time. Once you have a child, it changes everything because you realize you'll be leaving whatever the world is, whatever America is, to them. They're the future. And we want this place and we want this planet. We want America to be a better environment. We want our kids to be more successful than us. We want them to live a better life. I mean, that's what my parents wanted. I'm sure that's what you want. That's what I want. And that's a beautiful thing. And what I think is so cool, about what you're doing in your state and about the liberty movement in general is just how passionate the people are. It's so much more just about living a better life, getting more out of it. And that to me is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, we want to get there to where we're enjoying life again, where we can prosper, where you can take a piece of land, 80 to 90% of Nevada is controlled by the government, so there's no excuse for why they need to tax us. They have all the resources. They have all the wealth. One of the positions, I was informed a few days ago that I have my issue number 5 is Nevada to stop all payments to the IRS. We get nothing for our IRS taxes. Why don't we get something for that money? We get nothing for it. It just pays the banksters. And I was informed that I can go to jail for making that statement. And I think that's great. I think there couldn't be anything better than going to jail for something like that in our world right now. That's living, standing up for something instead of sitting, like I said, in front of the TV.
Quick break, David. I got to cut you off. Right back. Hey, everybody. I'm Christopher Green, founder and creator of the Alternative Media Television Network. Please check out our new sponsor, SeedsNow.com. Whether you're concerned about the economy, food shortages, rising food prices, or just looking to live an organic, self-sustainable lifestyle, investing in your own seed bank is the smartest investment you can make. At SeedsNow.com, we've put together the most comprehensive collection of high-quality, non-hybrid, and non-genetically modified seeds. The Mega Seed Bank, which I personally recommend, is stocked with 55 popular open-pollinated varieties and over 58,000 plus high-quality seeds. All fresh, all natural, all non-hybrid. Remember, the government won't save you. Only you can save yourself. Check them out today at SeedsNow.com. Enter promo code GREEN with an E10 for a 10% discount. Again, that's SeedsNow.com, promo code GREEN with an E10. We are back. I am Christopher Green. This is Green Wave Radio Live here with David Lori Vanderbeek. Pretty amazing broadcast today. I mean, we've been talking everything about the DHS arming up, Obama's gun grab, the repercussions of Sandy Hook. You know, I've talked about the fact this is very much like a bully confronting you, on the schoolyard. You're backed into a corner. You're left with very little options, but quite honestly, to defend yourself. And, Americans need to ask the question, when have they had enough? When is enough enough? When do you stand up for yourself? And, if need be, and nobody wants violence or anything like that, that's a last resort. But, we see these petitions that have started all across the United States, all 50 states, hundreds of thousands of signatures, people asking to peacefully secede from the Union. The question we need to ask ourselves is, where is this headed? What is this, leading to? And I want to segue back to you, David. Where do you think things are headed? And do you think that the country is splitting apart? Is this happening?
Yeah, I agree that it is, because America wasn't designed to be a tyranny. It was designed. The colonies volunteered to be part of the Union, and it wasn't until after the Civil War that they established that you couldn't leave the Union. I mean, that was what the Civil War is about, is the freedom that you couldn't be, the United States forces itself on you. And the states were not supposed to exist that way. I believe we're moving back towards what we were originally supposed to have, which were nation states. Democracy is going to be pushed downward, and that's what I'm talking about because of information. Back in the 200 wars that would go around the world doing policy for our presidents, because it took months to get a letter back to the White House. Mm-hmm. And today, we can have information as fast as the president, and the whole population can move in waves. So an individual can become an economy, like Harry Dent would say. And I would say that, an individual can become a market, an individual can become a political entity. We're moving away from parties too. We're decentralizing. And that'll be the breakup where people will become more and more free to do things in their own way. I just don't think the federal government can survive what it's created for itself. It's like having, you went to high school and you had those kids at high school that just thought that they were so cool, the preppy kids, and they just knew everything when they were faking their way through it. They just looked good. And now they're all in our government, running our government, and they don't have a clue of what they're doing. And, they're the ones that are going to lose big in the end, because some of them are going to end up dead and executed because of what they're doing. Whereas at the state level and at the county level, that's where the action's going to be. And you're going to see states, I think, go in very different directions. But I think they'll come back to the Constitution. I think there'll be a restoration of the constitutional law as it was originally intended, which means that states will have a lot more power. I mean, states today in the United States have economies individually that are bigger than many nations around the world. So we shouldn't have a centralized government the way we do now ever again. There's no need for it, and it's proven that it can't function.
And you teed something up perfectly, and you said something really fundamental that we're seeing, and this is already happening. I mean, this is the way our world is functioning, our country's functioning today. There's this decentralization effect, where you said, like Harry Dent, says, a person is their own economy. We're seeing people, able to, enter politics like yourself, and through the power of information and technology and social media, this is changing government. This is altering the landscape of all systems, whether or not they're economic, social, health-related. It really doesn't matter, but there poses a problem, and it's why we're going to have a lot of problems, in my opinion, going forward. The same bullies that you were mentioning in high school that are now running the show and still picking on people and picking on the American people, they do not want to give up their power. And you said so yourself, and I believe this to be the truth, is that, the government and the system in its current form can't and will not survive in this new paradigm. It just won't. It's just like the big banks. They cannot survive in this new paradigm. It's exactly why they went broke in 2008. And it's exactly why the federal government, owns, even to this day, a majority stake in these institutions. So the question is, well, what happens? These people big government doesn't want to give up their power. Yet there's this destabilization effect. And we have a lot of mainstream Republicans, too, and I mentioned this earlier, where, a lot of mainstream Americans have become radicalized because they see the policies that are taking shape right now. They see how the government's willfully, trying to disarm them. This is striking an emotional chord. It's why we're going to have problems, and why I see ultimately, and I really believe this, I see civil war, and it might not be in the sense of what we're familiar with, of what we learned and how we think of history, but we are very much living in a modern-day civil war today, living through it now. And this is all taking shape, and we're going to see this develop over the next couple of years. It's going to be challenging, but it's also a tremendous opportunity to restore a lot of the principles and values and freedom and things that, God-fearing, good Americans believe in my opinion. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, at some point you say to people like that, what I did is I contacted the federal government, the Congress, and the White House, and I said, if you've got a list of patriots that you're putting on lists for people to put in camps, then make sure you put my name on the list. And I also said, I have a couple of different speeches that have done very well. One of them was Mr. Obama put me on the White House kill list. And if Obama sends police to take your guns, civil war. And if Obama sends police to take your guns, execute them. At some point you say to this person, say there's some person, okay, that's going to bully you and that wants to take your guns. You say, well, look, if you're going to do that, then I'm not going to wait in my house. If you decide to come to my neighborhood or my community, I'm not going to wait in my house for you. I'm going to come out and I'm going to find you first. And I've already said that publicly, and I'll do that alone. If the current governor of our state wants to disarm people, then I want him to come do it to me personally, and I'll tear his throat out. And I want everybody to understand that I'm saying that as a governor candidate, and I would say that to his face. I would say that to anybody's face. Look, the only reason why men are free and women are free is because they won't tolerate that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There's certain things that are worth dying for universally. And there's certain things that are universally sacred. And life is one of those things. And you don't go down the path of Nazi Germany. If you study history, you see that they They put the people in little neighborhoods called ghettos, and then they separated them from their families. They took all their property, and, you know, it just goes one thing after another. And it's you have to decide for yourself personally, and you have to say it to their face, in their eye. You have to say, this is what I won't tolerate, and that's it. And that's it. And then you've made your decision, and when the time comes, you know, hopefully it doesn't come, but you follow through. And I've already made that decision for myself. I can only inspire other people to make the same decision for themselves. But these liberals, these weak people, I say to them, you know, I'd like to see you actually come and try to enforce this kind of gun legislation on people like me, because it's just not going to work out well for you. And I think more of our military, and I think more of our police officers than that. I think there are a lot of stupid ones, like the ones down in, I think was it in Texas, where they did the cavity search and then now they've been indicted.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah. You know, there are stupid police officers. I tried to become a police officer when I was younger, and I was the top scorer in Orange County, and it was almost impossible for me to get an interview. And then later on, I started reading about these articles where if your IQ is too high, you can't get hired. And so it was sad for me, because all I wanted to do was be a good cop when I was younger. And so I went on to grad school, and I became a family therapist instead, which, you know, obviously is a higher up the food chain. But I would have been satisfied to just been a good community cop. But I can't do that because of the nature of the beast. And that's the thing, is that, look, these idiots, I mean, you've got these arrogant, narcissist psychopaths like Barack Obama at the federal level, and then they just hire stupid people, because only stupid people will do what they say. And it's those stupid cops that are going to come out and challenge men like me, and they're going to get the worst of it, because they haven't got what it takes. They're not smart enough. You know, we're talking about a class of servants to the elite that are evil in themselves, and they're just dumb. That's what they're made fun of. If you watch children's movies, you always have like the leader of the wicked people, and they have really dumb servants. Well, think of Labyrinth. Think of
the dumber
Beauty. All these kids movies. It's
I was
like
just going to say
real life.
Yeah, the dumber the better. And I want to make sure our audience knows how to get in touch with you, how they can support you. We've got about a minute left. I know they can find you on YouTube at David Laurie. That is your username. Where else can they find you, David?
Go to NevadaGovernor2014.com. You can follow the campaign. You can support, donate, volunteer.
Okay, well, fantastic. David, great to have you on the show. We'll certainly have you back. I'll get this rebroadcasted in the not-too-distant future. Stay tuned, everybody. I'm Christopher Green. As always, hard-hitting and in your face. Thanks, David.
Thank you.